Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nyambura and this is 100 on Books. Today I'm going to be talking about the books I've read since the last time I talked about the books I read, and that last time was my January wrap-up. So these are the books I've read during the majority of February. I've had exams, I've had life happening and so on, so I just haven't been up to date with these updates, but I've also not read a lot of books, so let's just jump in. The first book I finished since that last wrap up was Momfluenced, Inside the Maddening Picture Perfect World of Mommy Influencer Culture by Sara Petersen. I found out about this book from Britlit over on Instagram. I'm going to post a link to her profile down below. And it's really just a book about momfluencers and influencers in the mommy world who generally a continuation from the world of mommy bloggers and mommy, so she focuses mostly on these influencers on Instagram, and I think some of these ideas also apply to a place like TikTok, for instance. The profound whiteness of momfluencers, the affluence that's generally not being discussed, and so on. I found it really interesting because it's really about influencer culture with a focus on momfluencers specifically, but these ideas of authenticity, the parasocial relationships that exist, and so on, made for very interesting reading. Then the next book I finished was All of This, A Memoir of Death and Desire by Rebecca Woolf. Now, I didn't know of this book until I watched Olive of A Book Olive's channel. I'm going to post a link to the particular video where she talks about this book. And this book actually, interestingly, is connected to Momfluenced because Rebecca Woolf, it turns out, was one of those OG mommy bloggers, and so on. So it follows her as she details the death of her husband, who she'd been planning to divorce, and then he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So she stayed on and essentially shepherded him to his death, and so on. Shepherded, supported him during his last days, and so on. So that first part is basically about like navigating that time, that end of life period, dealing with the fact that she had been on her way out of the marriage at the point at which she was diagnosed, and so on. So that's the first half, and then the second half is basically her contending with her new life and the fact that she can explore different aspects of her life. She especially goes into detail about like her sexual adventures or misadventures, as the case might be, and so on. That second half, from what I've observed on Goodreads, is what gets it raises people's hackles, like, why is she talking about her sex life, etc. And it's like, well, I mean, she was going to have a sex life if she left the man. She was going to have this life away from him, and so on. So I don't know, maybe some of the ideas around this book are caught up with what we expect from widows and such, but I found it an okay book. It wasn't particularly memorable, I'm not going to lie. Like, I've not thought about it since I read it, so yeah. And then the next book I finished was, let me unlock my phone, Happening by Ernaux, which is translated by Tanya Leslie. So this book is Ernaux recounting her abortion when she was in college and all the risks that were associated with it, and so on. It was a really short, really, how do I say this? It was an illuminating book because it was really like, it grabbed a certain time in French history and like told the story of that time through this personal experience, and so on. I don't know if one can say they enjoy a book like this, but it was illuminating. The next book I finished was HBCU Made, a celebration of the Black college experience, which is edited by Ayesha Rascoe. I think I had Ayesha Rascoe talking about this book on It's Been a Minute with Brittany Lewis on NPR, and it really caught my attention. It's a collection of essays by different people who attended HBCUs. If you don't know what HBCUs are, they are historically black colleges and universities in the United States. And it was an interesting collection. As with a lot of anthologies, it was uneven. So the people who wrote really moving essays, and then some were just like, okay, thank you. But it was just an interesting glimpse at HBCU culture and HBCU history and so on, especially because in this part of the world, I live in Kenya. For people who live in this part of the world, the people who we know who go to school in the US will generally go to PWIs because they offer more scholarships to international students and so on. So it was an interesting look at HBCUs. Then lastly, I finished A Jest of God by Margaret Laurence. I heard about this book from Lindy over at Lindy's Magpie Reads. I'm going to post a link to the video where she talks about this. And actually, I'm recording this on the 24th of February. I intend to watch the film based on this, which is Rachel. I'll also post a link to the film down below because it's available on YouTube later today. So yeah, A Jest of God follows this teacher in a rural part of Canada as she basically is watching her life just pass her by. She's in her mid-30s. She's never been like in a relationship and so on. She is just faced with some confronting situations every so often. Like she has a head teacher who enjoys corporal punishment and it really turns her off, but like she doesn't know how to advocate for her pupils and so on. But then this one summer she meets a former classmate and they have a thing going on between the two of them that means that she's forced to reckon with her life, and what happens next will surprise you. But yeah, I love the way she learned to assert herself, how she learned to, and I'm not tying, don't confuse this for me saying that it takes being in a romantic or a sexual or whatever relationship with a man for you to transform or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But that summer really changes her life, and I loved how the book ended. So yeah, that's all the books I finished since the last time I spoke to you. Please tell me what books you finished since the last time we had a chance to see each other. And thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and all the good things. And I'll see you soon. Bye.